Hello everybody, it is Lehman Crafton, aka Zorvalachan, Less Than Guru again, and this is my third part to my old school versus new school little discussion that I'm having with you. The first one we kind of focused on combat as sport versus combat as battle, new school being sport, old school being battle. The second time we kind of did campaign style, where old school was more of a setting that depending on where characters went, the challenge might be too easy, might be too difficult, might be just right, kind of, like the Three Little Bears, depending on where you went. Game masters might have a whole world, and if the dragon's over there, he's not going to adjust that dragon over there to fit the level of the party. It's the party's, the group's responsibility for figuring out what's going on. Mars hears me talking, and he will join us until he gets bored. So then the second one was the campaign. So this one and the third one, I want to kind of focus more on leveling or character advancement. I'm going to use leveling because it is more of a leveling thing, not necessarily if you use experience or whatever the advancement currency is, like Toward Eternity's 5 possibility or 5 XP at the end of every act, things like that. But they kind of fit because that 5 XP at the end of every act is very different than the old Torg, which was possibilities were XP as well. So things that you use to improve your skills, to stop from taking damage, and doing neat things, that also is your XP. So it kind of, you had to determine, is this worth it, or do I want the XP at the end of or do I want to use it as XP at the end of the adventure? And there's different mentalities on that. But what I want to kind of do on this one is focus on the Murder Hobo thing that I talked about in the first video. The XP being gained by gold pieces, so gold pieces as XP versus the milestone leveling. I see it kind of along a spectrum, or a line. Like if you have the old school, XP was by gold pieces. You took gold pieces, you got them from some hoard that wasn't being used in the economy, you brought them back, and then you're able to use that as XP. That's how you leveled. Step removed, because people thought, why is gold giving me XP? Why am I gaining experience? Because it's experience points. It's points that are supposed to be, you learn something, so you become better. And it's, real world, I don't necessarily see leveling, because it's not like all of a sudden I wake up one morning and everything I know is better. But I do have those times where I'm doing something and all of a sudden it like clicks, and I am better at whatever that is, whatever I've been either training or studying or just listening to. All of a sudden it's like boom, and I get it, and it's kind of like boosting a skill up a level or a rank. But that's not by me getting money. And so at some point, people started going, well, what's kind of the main thing D&D is? Combat, because back in AD&D, you didn't even have skills. The first type of skills were from other games going, hey, we want to add skills to the game, and it usually is like if this is Palladium, you tack a percentile system onto it. Other games came along and they had their own way to do skills. D&D second edition came along and had non-weapon proficiency. So then there's a split, complete split. You got weapons and things that are not weapons, and things like that. But it was like combat is a really big part. So give the XP to the monsters. So when the monsters are killed, you give the XP. But then the only way you're gaining XP is by killing monsters. Murder Hobos, how do we get rid of this? Even though back then we didn't call them Murder Hobos, we just said the game was, they're just doing hack and slash. And again, my opinion for all my videos. So if you like what I'm saying and you watch more videos, you can see why I like certain games and why I don't like certain games or situations. If you don't like what I say, maybe you'll still watch my videos, because there have been many times, and I've stated this before, where I have read a review that the person was hating on a game, just hating on it. And I read that and was like, all of these things are things that I love. And then I played the game and was like, I love this game. So maybe if you hate the way that I view things, but you watch my videos and I'm going, I hate this system or I hate this thing, you're like, that's what I want. And then I give you an idea and you try something you might not have tried before. But you got that, XP we're talking about, killing things. And then you kind of shift a little further. And the first time that I personally experienced this was in Palladium systems. Robotech was first, and then I got into Palladium Fantasy, and my brother got into TMNT, Heroes Unlimited, Beyond the Supernatural, BTS, and then Rifts, etc. And they all use the same experience chart. And basically there, it's for doing things. It's not necessarily killing things. No monsters have any XP value. No scenarios have any XP values. Encounters, nothing like that has any set XP values. What they have is attempting a skill that's relevant. Successful or failed, you get 25 XP. Doesn't matter what level you are, you get 25. So at the beginning levels, it's still not very much, but you do enough of them, and it might gain you that level if you only need a little bit. When you're high level, it hardly means anything, but everything adds up. And it's doing an old school mentality of it takes a long time to advance a level. Very old school, not new school at all, where new school is kind of just X many encounters should get you up the next level. Especially I'm talking about like D&D 4th, 5th edition, where it's the scales. 4 encounters, you get a level 5, whatever it is, 9. I'm not sure of the actual specifics, but I remember reading in the DMG that it's boom, boom, boom. This many encounters should get you a level. So you got Palladium doing that, doing the skills, defeating foes, but it wasn't like defeating a dragon gives you this. It was defeating a minor nuisance gives you this. Defeating a difficult challenge. And the difficulty all depended on what your party was. If your party's a bunch of first level, brand new group who fight a couple of second level kobolds, that might be a really tough challenge. You might give them 300 experience. That, is a lot to get to you around. Palladium, say 1,800, 2,000 to get the second level. That's a significant chunk. That's you do 6, 7 of those and you got a level. But you do that at 5th level, and you're facing that same group of second level kobolds. It's nothing to you. You get 50 XP. And your higher level, it takes a much more to get it, so it's a lot smaller percent. You'd have to do that a lot. And it's kind of in modern anything from MUDs, computer games, video games, which is, it took you forever, and you kill that rat right outside of the town, and sooner or later that one point is not going to do you any good. So Palladium had things like that, and one of the things that you got the most for was self-sacrifice or potential self-sacrifice. If you jumped into, if you saved a bunch of people, you got a bunch of experience. But if you jumped into something to save somebody else, especially an innocent, and you put your own life, it was a dangerous situation. It wasn't like the one kobold's going to kill the person, you kill the kobold. No, it's like, you got a whole massive army of giants and they're attacking the village and you charge forward. You might die. You got a big amount of experience, and their view of experience was based off of the story, what you did, what your accomplishments were. So it's more of an accomplishment. And then we kind of go further. You get something like Torg Eternity at the end of every act. It's not a level, but you get 5 XP. So it's just a blanket boom. You get 5 XP. My phone's ringing. I will put this on. Sorry about that. Basically, one of my players for the night, he plays my Friday games, also got locked out of his Roll20 account, and it allows him to reset his password, but as soon as he gets back in, it locks him out again. He's tried it about 20 times over the last 3 days, so I was just suggesting maybe he just try to make another account, and I can give that account access to his character sheets. So doing things on the fly always presents changes. So sorry about that. I will try to remember where I had left off. It was with, last thing I kind of remember was we did Palladium, and then I think I talked about Tor giving 5 flat XP per act. Act is kind of like an accomplishment. You got a certain part of the plot done, and therefore you get the experience. So that's then one more step, and you get the milestone leveling. And the milestone leveling, you're not familiar with, it's just the Game Master has certain goals, kind of like the acts in Toward Eternity, but they have certain goals or certain points of an adventure, and when the group hits those, does that, solve that thing, then everybody levels, and there's no XP to keep track of, and stuff like that. So something like Tor or games that are not level based, it doesn't really work well because you need XP. You spend the XP to advance. But if we consider Tor Eternity being that 5 XP is kind of like the level, it's similar to milestone leveling, sorta. And I will get into that. I personally don't mind Torg's 5 XP per act. I think it doesn't work when you have a large group of people, multiple game masters. Torganized Play online is a Facebook group that a lot of times they'll use Roll20 or something, and they have everybody just whatever adventure you show up, you get 5 XP for that, but if you don't show up, you don't get that XP. Toward Eternity is set up for one group, and everybody gets the group, and like I discussed in previous videos, that's because you have that compartmentalized this group for this encounter. If you have people that you've punished or who you've rewarded other people for showing up and doing a good job, the whole party suffers because they're not at that level to get that encounter in a combat sport game, new school mentality. But the milestone leveling, I don't like. I am a person who I like knowing kind of, at least if not next session I will level, it's a I need this many XP, or I have this many XP and I need to spend this to get to raise my stuff. I like planning out my character, and I don't like that unknown as a player. Especially as a game master in, say, an adventure path or something, you don't know what things you're going, you might know the end goal. The end goal is we get out of this asylum. We're talking about Strange Aeons, the first book. We want to get out of this asylum. That's the main goal. But during that, you have all these other goals. And maybe that thing over there is more interesting to me. And I go over there and I do a bunch of stuff, and I don't get a level for it. I don't get, hidden XP for it. I don't like that, because I'm that player that I was the guy in any party. I kept track of everybody's XP. If it was a whole party got the same XP, I wrote it down. We did Earth Dawn. Everybody got the same XP. I wrote it down. Things like that. In games that people got different XP, I was the one that wrote down everybody's XP, and then the game master didn't have to keep track of it, and he could say, hey, Lehman, what did people get? And I would say, this was the base XP, this is what, so-and-so got for extra role-playing, this is what so-and-so got for bringing sodas and popcorn, or, whatever. For a while, we did that, because some people would bring food for sharing, and other people wouldn't. So it was like, hey, if you bring food, you get a small amount of XP. All game groups are different. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You got to figure that out for your game, but there are different types of things out there. But it was a mentality of me being a young college student going, today is our role-playing game. If people don't show up, we got to punish them. Once we grew up, got lives, punishment was not playing the game. But then you got, do you reward people for actually, showing up? Is a reward for one a punishment for the other? You have all these things that you have to think about. But if you and your group understand what's going on, you know what the reason's going on, hopefully it works out. But the milestone I don't like, because as a player I like that planning. I like going, if I figure out a few things more, I'm going to get that level, I'm going to get that XP, I'm going to be able to advance my character. And I keep a journal for the Pathfinder games. We go, a little spiral notebook, a little hand notebook, and I wrote down what session it is, so if it's the first or 56th session, and then I write what level we are. So people are like, oh, what level were we on that session, and I can look it up. And there's time where we go 2 sessions and we gain a level. And then there's times where we go 8 sessions and don't gain a level, and I got 15 pages filled in. We did a lot of stuff. But because we didn't hit some arbitrary goal, in the Pathfinder book or the Game Master's mind, we didn't hit the level. And to me, that irks me a little. And if we were getting experience for that, then at least, and we didn't level, at least I would be seeing that we're getting advancement. And there's some times where the Game Master just forgets to give us a level. And we get into the next thing, and it's difficult, and we've hit our unknown milestone, and at the end of the session, the Game Master is like, oh, or, a couple of sessions later, he's like, okay, go up to, say, level 4. And we're like, we never hit level 3. I didn't give you that? No. So there's those times, at least if you got the experience and you write it on the paper, when you've leveled. The Game Master, everybody getting 300 experience. Somebody's going to say, all right, we hit level 3, we hit level 8, whatever it was. But everybody knows what's going on. And if, those types where the milestone leveling, then what the Game Master wants. He tells you, you have to do this. Then you have to start saying, how railroady is this? We want to do this thing over here. This is what we think will get to the end goal. You put this thing here as our next milestone. Now we have to go there. We have to go point A, defeat that or do that milestone. B to do that milestone. 3 to C to do that milestone. We want to go off the tangent 895 Q first. And so you can do things, you can actually gain experience like people do in real life. Like, we gain experience, we go to school, we learn stuff. That's gaining, experience. The word experience is when you do something and you learn from it. You get experience. The point part is the value for a role-playing game. But that milestone leveling, like I said, personally, I don't like. What I want to do, though, is show why I don't think either one of them prevents Murder Hobos. I played in Pathfinder for 3 years for Iron Gods. I have played probably four months or so in Strange Aeons, and my party murder hobos all the time. There are times where I have to stop and say, are we really doing this? Because just killing the thing is not always a good thing. And that's on milestone leveling. The same thing with the treasure. So my thing is path of least resistance. If killing the thing is the path of least resistance, you're gonna have a party of murder hobos. Unless they really love not doing everything they can except combat. Unless you have a whole party that the combat pillar is the least successful pillar, playing something, even like Vampire the Masquerade, but a lot of times I watched those or was listening to friends doing the live action Camarilla. that, you know, the combat was very, very rare. They really got into it. That can work, not being murder hobo, but if you had a thing, say even in that situation where your party could easily, the path of least resistance was killing the, I don't remember what vampire had, like the top person of the city. You would do the top person of the city so you could, you know, gain a bunch of experience or currency and raise your character. It's the same way as the, in my view, the same way as the gold pieces as XP. If killing the thing that has those gold pieces is easier than diverting it, to sneaking in, to taking time to figure out stuff and pull it out, kill the thing, then at your leisure take it out, you got the experience. So my thing is you have to try to get that path of least experience, or resistance, sorry, path of least resistance to be something other than just killing. Now, I do agree with the old school mentality. If you don't know that that encounter is going to be a super easy encounter, or at least a fair and balanced, challenging encounter, but your group can do it, you might not just run off around killing things. It doesn't always have to be the bartender or the innkeeper's bodyguard is an ex-adventurer who's, you know, like 8 levels above your character. So if you mess with the barkeep, you know, the bouncer takes, you know, the old adventure bouncer, or, you know, the whatever game you have, whoever your Gandalf, you know, Elminster, you know, character comes in and can pop the party. But you can have that unknown in it, and if the party doesn't know that whatever is out there could be very challenging, it might no longer be the path of least resistance. So that's kind of my thing. Like in Torg Eternity, do something that's not level based, to stop, you know, murder hobos. If going and hacking into something in the godnet, you know, you might have a combat encounter, but if you can do a few quick things, like, you know, turn off some security cameras, do this, sneak in, do some stealth to get to your goal, and then get that XP, and that is easier because, say, even in Torg Eternity, they have alpha level missions or beta level missions, things like that. But if you change that as a game master and you put something that's like beta against your alpha level, and you let your players know, and that's why in my other videos I always say do your session 0. Everybody's on board. So whenever I make these examples, everybody's on board. YouTube. We're doing Torg Eternity, but we're changing it because I want combat as battle, not combat as sport. Maybe that does it. So my personal opinion then would be, I don't see the milestone leveling as getting rid of murder hobos. I don't see the gold pieces as XP getting rid of murder hobos. I see it as making whatever in that situation is the path of least resistance being the easiest way, because path of least resistance is the easiest. That's what the players might focus on, unless they just love being murder hobos. And then you have a group of murder hobos, and that's how you have your fun, and that's perfectly great. But if that's a problem that even your murder hobos see, is like, yeah, we're murder hobos, we wish we weren't, but that's the easiest way to do it, I don't think milestone leveling is going to help you any. I experienced 3 years of milestone leveling, and it didn't turn off murder hobos in any way, shape, or form, especially Iron Gods, which, you know, is that if you haven't played it, it's a little Mad Maxy in an area. They have a scrap town, kind of like, you know, the barter town, but it's called Scrapwell or something like that. And it's that, and you're come in and you kind of either make yourself a gang or you hook up with a gang, and then you go and you beat up other gangs. Very murder hobo-y, milestone leveling. did not prevent Murder Hobo in that situation at any time. We were actually hobos because we came from a different town. So we were doing the traveling, we were doing the killing everybody because it was the easiest in a milestone leveling campaign. Same thing as I said with, you know, the XP, the gold is XP. What you do is you make it so that there's an unknown quality. And that unknown quality, or you make it obvious that the path of least resistance to that XP, to that leveling, is something other than combat, then they know that they can choose something other than combat. So you can use both the new school way, like I explained with Torg Eternity, or old school way of combat as battle. It's unknown unless you do your research. That's how you can at least rein in the Murder Hobos. So as a focus, I personally don't see a problem with new school. I don't see a problem with old school. I see a problem with me in saying that one is legitimately better than the other, because sometimes I want to take pieces of this and put it with this and things like that. And even when you get to the aspect of, you know, making a new campaign and going, I want to go old school, you can say I want to throw in a few of these new school things into it. One of the things I talked about earlier that I wanted to, on my list of few things that I wanted to talk about, or at least talk in more depth, because I might have talked about it previously, since these are unedited, and I have had times where I made a mistake. In this video, I actually paused it, but in other ones, I got the whole video, and then I went to review it, and the sound somehow didn't work. I did a sound test before I started recording, started it, and no sound. I had to do the whole thing over again. So sometimes I do these 3 or 4. One time I did it like 7 times. So I might have stated something then and forgot that I stated it, or I might think that I stated it and I haven't. So if I'm repeating, it's just because I think it's an important thing to discuss. So one is that intra-party balance. And that is, in your game, are you going to make it so that everybody's the same level? Because, and I've even said it in this video, depending on your age and who your friends are that you game with, or if you game with your friends, or if you go to, say, a local role-playing shop, you know, a local game store, they might be strangers or just people that the only time you play with them, like when I was at Purdue, the fantasy club, for a long time, the only time that I played was with a group of strangers. Later on, we started playing other games outside of that, but maybe they're strangers. Maybe they're people that you just see once a week. You know, maybe they're your best friends. So you got to figure out how does that affect character levels within the party. Certain aspects, I think that it's good to have different people be different levels. Depending on the game, it works really well or really bad. Something like D&D, so you have the character that dies and you're all playing 15th level, and that first level character comes in, he can't do anything. I've stated before, Torg, original Torg, was one of the very few systems that you could have people that have played forever, and you bring in a guy that just got their template, put their ads on it, and started the game. You didn't give them any equipment, you didn't give them any extra stuff, and even if they chose something that didn't have equipment that was out of this world, they could do things that still felt like they were contributing. Now, one-on-one, again, you know, if they fought a different member of the party, they would get wiped, but in the game itself, they could participate in. I had a original Torg game that went on for 10 years, and we kind of put that on hold for a little while, and I was talking with new people that I met at work, and we became friends, and hey, let's play Torg. So we started all new characters, and it's one of those things that happens. Sometimes you have a bunch of friends and they can't play together, or their playstyle conflicts. So one of my players didn't quite like that group, And when I got interested in Torg, then my original group were like, "Hey, we want to do Torg," so I started doing that. And like I currently have 2 Torg games. I was having 2 Torg games then. I had the brand new group and the experienced group. But I had one of the new people. He didn't quite mesh with that group. I never quite understood why, but he didn't, and that's fine. And he asked to play. Well, in old Torg, you couldn't just keep track of experience because possibilities could be used to enhance your character during play. If you haven't played Torg and you played something like Star Wars, they're kind of like the character points. You can use them to augment things, or you can use them for actual experience. So I knew that they were advanced, but even within their game of people that had been through there, they had people that died, characters that died, and then got other ones. A few had lasted the entire time. But I brought in a brand new player, brand new character, and he never felt like he was unable to do anything. He wasn't like that first level wizard that comes in and shoots his one spell and hides under the table. And in an adventure, in a group that everybody else is like 10th level, he just decides to stay at home because he knows he can't do anything. So you have to think about that. So then if everybody's 10th level and your character dies, you bring them in at 10th level. Do you let them have all this gold and all these items just, hey, this much gold, buy it on all your items? I've talked about how previously in a Pathfinder, at the very end of the game, we got a new player, which is fine, great player, but he was able to min-max his character, and Game Master gave him gold and buy all this equipment where we were having to find out if it was even there, buy it, barter for it, find out it wasn't there. He just went in the book, bought a bunch of stuff, and then it became a everybody watches this guy do everything show. But do you want to punish the people who their job called? They were on call. They had to leave to do their job. They had a sick child, family in the hospital, things like that. Do you, is it punishing them? Is it not? Do you reward people for doing good things? How do you reward people? In Torg Eternity, if somebody does something cool, and if you watch the Torg Retreat thing, did something cool, made a cool joke, Game Master, hey, here's a possibility. We had 4 players. My game, I have 7 or 8. I can't do that. If I get even getting one possibility for making me laugh or making the thing go, really benefits the party greatly. I mean, already they start off, as a group. You get 3 possibilities to start off with. They got 8 players. That's 24 possibilities instead of 12 for 4 players. You give everybody 4 cards, they do a glory, that's 5 cards. It just exponentially goes up and up and up. And especially until they hit beta, which then the Game Master gets possibilities to use against them 2 per Storm Knight, so then that reverses, and then that makes it really difficult on the players, because then I have 16 possibilities I can use against you, no problem. You have to think about things like that. How do those little benefits, if you have that rule for this group, it might not work for this other group. And that's my whole thing about all of these new schools versus old school, is there are mentalities that are different. Your intra-group, you have to determine as a game master, as a group, what game you're doing, what play style type of campaign you're doing. Is it a path? Is it an open sandbox, etc.? And you got to figure out how party-wise this is going to fit. If somebody misses the day, and let me give you an example of my thoughts. I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm saying after proposing to my higher level tour group, who I want to put on hold after we finish Relics of Power, I want to do an old school game. I don't want the everybody gets X number of XP. I want to give those little XP for people to come up with good ideas and stuff. But I don't want people that miss the game to have that I've lost out because I had to go to work, or I was sick, or my kids were sick, or whatever real life thing comes into play. I don't want to punish them by not giving them something. So I came up with an idea that if you show up, you get a base level. If you do really cool stuff, you get things that are higher, a few XP here and there. If you don't show up, and it doesn't matter if you just had a bad day and were like, I'm not showing up, or like the phone call that interrupted, we were talking Friday, he couldn't get into Roll20. He could not play because he physically or virtually could not get into Roll20. Why punish him? So if you can't show up, I'm thinking about giving 90% experience, whatever that base costs, or that base level was. So you get most of it. The people actually showed up and participated. And in that one, I probably would have gave him the base because he was there. He was on Discord, which we use for voice. He just could not get into Roll20. And so I'd probably give him that base. But here's your base. You do fun, you contribute really cool. You do those awesome moments in the game. You make the game more enjoyable for everybody. You get a few more, and then if you can't make it, you get 90%, because when you're giving out like say 100 experience, 90 is still a lot. It still might have got you up that next level. It's not like a nothing. You just got nothing at all. So you have to kind of figure out that. Also, if somebody dies, do you bring them in at first level? Now, I'm going really old school, so on this, my plan is on this adventure, or this campaign that I'm hopefully going to start, you're going to be first level. And I've made a conscious decision in that because that's how old school we did it. And there were times where it was like, okay, everybody's fifth level, I'll bring you in at third level. I could do that, but then you got to think, okay, do they have, they've been adventuring for a while, do they get extra stuff, blah, blah, blah. And again, that's where the new people can tailor it. In places like Torg Eternity, normally everybody is the same XP level, so if the character dies, a new one comes in, they have all that stuff. I just don't let them have more gear than what the starting, and that's kind of the balance there. I don't like letting dead bodies get looted either, party members looting things, unless it was a group item that character just happened to have. But if that was a personal item, you're heroes, you're stealing from your friends type thing. So that's that intra-party balance. Do you want everybody to fit that compartment so that if somebody dies, you bring them right in? If you do that, how do you limit them so that they're not able to minimax? Because anybody who has played role-playing for any amount of time knows if all you're doing is boom, now you're 10th level and you get to make a 10th level character, it's very, very different than incrementally going up every single level and having to make decisions based off of what you know at that point in time, what you don't know in the future. So you think about that. The other idea that I heard a lot of old school people talking about why they like old school is that it challenges you as a player. You don't have those, oh, we don't know, let me make a skill roll versus knowledge planes, knowledge nature, knowledge monsters, knowledge religion, whatever, just roll the dice. My character knows that I don't. My character's smarter than me. Some people don't like that. They like being in the character. They like role-playing that. And what's funny to me is there are a lot of people that I have met and talked to and have read or watched videos, just all around experience, who really think that having tons of skills is good role playing, because then they can say, oh, my character has this skill, so they're knowledgeable at that, and I roll some dice. And to me, it's the ROLL role playing. You as a person are not playing a role as a character. You as a person are looking at your character sheet. You're seeing what your character is good at, and you're rolling dice based off of it instead of looking at the character sheet and saying, okay, my character has the X skill, and I'm going to play out the X skill, and then I might roll some dice. But again, you don't make fighters do that. And that was an old school mentality that I thought the fighter could swing a sword every single round, and the thief would always say, "Can I backstab?" I sneak around him. Can I backstab? Can I backstab? And a lot of game masters like felt, I don't know, that was cheating or something, and so they're like, "No, not quite. No, 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 no." And the fighter never had to do anything. He just swung a sword. So you get that kind of, you know, push and pull, and then it swings into the new school where the thief can just, the player can do specific things that then they can use the sneak attack or back, it used to be backstab, now sneak attack, and the game master doesn't have control over it because you have those game masters who are, no, you can't do that. So, it's like, where does the role of me as a player affect how the game's played? And you can have that person who, as a person, is really, really, really good at oratory, and they can, debate, and they can make eloquent speeches and things like that. And then they have a character who is charisma's their dump stat, and they rely on themselves through role playing their character, but they're not role playing their character. They're being themselves, trying to get an edge on the game master. If they're role playing their character and they would see, oh, my charisma is a 5, then they would say, oh, I'll give a speech. And even though they, as a player, could give a wonderful speech, they then, if they're role playing their character, they should give a really obnoxious speech that will make somebody angry. That would be role playing without actually, rolling dice. So you have to watch. People tend to use role playing, oh, the role playing ROLE is good, but then they're not actually playing their role, they're playing themselves. Is that good? Is that bad? Is my mentality as Lehman better than my character as Orval Achan? So, or my character is really smart, but I, as a person, want to figure out things. Do you want everything to be reduced to a die roll because your character is the one in the world, not you? It's difficult, and I don't think there's one big answer for everything. A thought I just had today in something like Pathfinder, if you wanted as players to focus more on what we can figure out as players and immerse ourselves into the game world, and lessen those just everybody every round rolls whatever knowledge they are to, they have to figure it out. You look at whatever your bonus is to that, and that's how many times you get freebies, say, which means you can roll to know the thing, figure out or get a piece of that clue instead of coming up with yourself. So on those bad days, I could use that as, a mechanic that, oh, I got a +3 to, nature. So we're fighting something that I think's naturey, and I get three rolls for the night off of, that skill, because Lehman today is brain dead and can't figure it out. But if I, as Lehman, role playing my character, I'm not using out of character knowledge, but I have my notebook, I had my thing, and I can look into it and, say, oh, it's this. As a game master, figure out what might work. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe it's just something that I thought about today, and tomorrow I think about it and go, that's stupid. I do that a lot. But you really have to think, what am I as a player? What am I as a game master? And what is my group? What is the thing we're trying to accomplish? Are we trying to challenge ourselves as people? Are we trying to challenge, just play, not challenge, but just play a game and roll some dice for enjoyment tonight? what is the reason that we are doing this? What is the reason for this specific game? Maybe that game we do something different. This game we're going to do this. And we have to keep that, separate. Just, remind ourselves, hey, this is an old school game. Hey, this is a new school game. We're going to be doing these. Combat's going to be fair, challenging, but winnable every time. We're going on an arc, so we want to keep everybody's players the same level. Or we're going open sandbox. We're going combat as battle. If you character dies, you are first level. There's no perception. You got to tell me what you're, as a player, you got to tell me what, and I'll tell you what you see. You got to look for it, then I tell you if you see it. Things like that. You just got to really figure out your group overall encompassing of these videos. Do your session 0. Figure out what you and your group are doing. Figure out which aspects of old school and new school you're doing. Take a moment. If you're going to change anything, does that have other repercussions that you have not thought about? And the last thing that I wanted to do, that has been talked about other places, is things like spell components. I know when I first started D&D, I didn't like the idea of having to gather all this stuff together. I like and Palladium doesn't do that unless you're the Diabolist or the Summoner. But if you're just a wizard, you just cast your spells. You don't forget it. You have at that time, first edition, you had a limited number of spells per day. But if you had 20 spells, it could be any spells, kind of like sorcerers. You didn't have to memorize anything. No spell components. I was like, spell components is bookkeeping. We played Warhammer. And I on that game, we rolled everything randomly, and I rolled Alchemist's Apprentice. So I didn't even have spells. It was like I had to get the Alchemist, and then I could, the second step later, I got a spell. And it took me a long time. I got that spell, and then I needed a spell component. And it was like, great, just put another barrier for like a sleep spell. I needed a feather, so I went and bought a pillow, because old school pillows, people in the past, pillows were, you took feathers, the little down feathers, and you stuffed a pillow with it, and it wasn't like, memory foam or whatever, cloth. It was feathers. So my character bought a pillow, and that was my spell components to cast sleep spells. And, you needed an eye. Well, you killed a bunch of people, and you kept their eyes. You pull them out. And at the time, as a young adult, we played Warhammer. I was probably 18, 19. I just didn't like that aspect. But as a game master, you have to think, if I take this out, what are the ramifications? Is it just making things easier, or is it going to completely imbalance the game? And a lot of that linear fighter, quadratic, caster is, you need those spell components, and that's one of the things that kept them down. If you just said no spell components, then that, as long as that spellcaster could memorize those high, powerful spells, they could cast them. They didn't have to worry about that physical component. And if you just take it, as a game master, you have X many, spell components, then they're going to cast it that X many times. If you turn it into it's just worry about gold, and every place that you go, you can buy those spell components. Well, then they're going to have those spell components. The gold is not a problem after a certain level. If you do that, then don't complain when your spellcasters take care of everything, and they just do whatever they want. And the fighters and thief are back there going because they have nothing to do. Put it in the game world. Here's it might not be something easy like feathers, but some of the more, dragon bones or something, if they haven't killed the dragon and they want some dragon bone, they need dragon bone, then which magic shops in the cities have these? Don't make it so it's just random or good persuasion. because they'll have the one face character roll for them. Put those components. I'm not saying well, if you're not going to allow those components, don't allow those spells and notify the player before you play. Section 0. But if you're allowing those spells, but you're making it component-wise, my suggestion would be looking at your map, your area, and saying these components for these these hard-to-find things are in this magic shop in this city, this magic shop in this city, this magic shop in this city, and nowhere else. And there's a limited quantity here, here, and here. Nowhere else. That's what they have. You can't always take it upon that every single, adventure, this is a source book, but imagine it's the adventure book. Every adventure book is going to have all of those details. As a game master, go and put those details in it. Write it down, whether it's on a piece of paper or, on a Word document. Write it down, have it ready. If players are looking for it and they don't find it, they can use their other skills and connections to find where they might be. They go to the magic shop. Their magic shop doesn't have it. They talk with the guy for a little while. They've been nice to the guy. They brought back some stuff, loot, that they just gave the guy. We're like, hey, it's not really good for us. We can't use it. We could try to sell it to you, but hey, we're just giving it to you for you to sell. My players have done things like that. They get on good terms with the magic shop user, smith, or whatever, and they can then talk. Hey, we're looking for this. Oh, you don't have it? He goes, no, I don't have it, but I did hear that so and so down, in that city there has it. Then they know where they can go. Maybe it's in a different direction than their goal. So now they have to make a choice. Do they do that? Do they not? If they don't have that component, is it really is it something really vital to them that now their journey is going to be more dangerous? You can come up with all types of cool real world scenarios involved around those components. So think about that. Just little things like, I don't understand spell components, so we're not going to have any of this game. It can fundamentally change the game. Think about it. Here's the ramifications. If you're ready to accept them, great. No spell components. If you really like the idea of spell components, you really want to limit them, be a good game master and put those in there if you're going to allow those spells, because otherwise you just say, I'm not allowing this spell. Don't even think about taking it. Don't spend your time, resources trying to find it, because I'm never going to put this component, spell component in the game, allow it to be used, etc. Be a good game master and put those things out there for the players to decide if they can do something, if that's something that they want to do. You don't have to just make it, you can do it at any time. You can do it as you got a finite amount. You got 3 of these components. You can do this three times. And then you have to, find another one. Maybe they refresh, maybe, refresh, I'm using video game terms, but maybe some more get discovered. As a game master, you can do that. Of course, what I'm just saying is don't be a mean game master and deny somebody it without telling them that it's going to be a denial. But if you're having problems with that balance, where those high-level wizards and people that use spell components are taking over everything, put the make the spell component or change the spell component. It's your world. You can say, yeah, the game book says this, it does this, or make it rare. Make it rare in your world. As an example, the fantasy club that I was in at Purdue, the world Jarn was like 98% water. It was a water world. There was lots of, I think it was like considered a shallow sea freshwater world. And basically, metal was very, very, very rare. So it had a lot of value, and you had maybe different types of coinage, or the coinage was really high. I had a game where a spacecraft crashed in. No technology or anything. It wasn't like Beyond Barrier Peaks or Iron Gods, where there was some remnants of the technology. Everything, was a plain fantasy world, but plastic it was both rare and kind of like gold. It didn't, break down. Plastic pieces was like the highest, so it didn't even, it didn't go, gold, platinum, and that way, copper, silver, gold, platinum. At the top, it was plastic pieces. So you can come up with, interesting things like that. So I guess I'll conclude now. It's getting on 55 minutes. So I just wanted to state, watch the first one on combat, the second one on campaign. This one kind of dealt with both kind of like party experience, milestone leveling, murder hobos, and intra-party character balance. Balance. Is it a good thing to you? Is it a bad thing? Why are you doing it? Why are you not doing it? Things to just consider. Like I said, when I read for 4th edition, and it was like everybody's this because you want everybody, and why punish the whole party for, one guy couldn't make it. Now they can't, successfully complete the adventure. I was like, whoa, what an idea! You don't have to punish people for not showing up, because there had been that transition in my life from the, college student in my 20s to the adult with a job and life responsibilities. That just blew my mind. Now, 10 years later, I'm looking at it going, it's, you have other issues, and you have to determine, are these issues more important? Are they less important? Can you find some balance? So I'll stop that here. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked, you can hit the like button. If you disliked, you can hit the dislike button. Subscribe if you want to get these videos in the future as they come up. My next one hopefully will be an actual review, which was the purpose of these. So you can look at my background video, you can look at my part 1, my part 2, this is my part 3, determine what I see, and then when I show a game system and I kind of review it, you can see how I think and determine, is my reasoning good for you, or is it not good for you? Is something a game I hate something that you'll like? Is something that I like something that you'll hate? Or do you kind of agree with me in things, and what I like you'll like, etc.? So that's its main purpose. I want to thank you again. Zor Valachan, less than guru. And until next time,